The deeper you understand your audience, the better your marketing and your sales will convert. There's no bigger, more important statement that you can make. And I see so many businesses who don't invest the time or the energy or use the resources that they've got or the time that they're spending to really focus on this and squeeze as much juice as possible out of their existing customer base, out of the activity that they're doing already. And today I want to dive in. I want to go into as much detail as I can, breaking down how to understand your ideal customer for a B2B business, how to keep it super simple. And I'm going to show you and I'm going to walk you through exactly how for my own business or for a client's business, when I'm consulting with them or bringing them on as an agency client, how I would break down their ideal customer profile to the right level, where I would go, what tools I'd use, and how that will transform the business, the product, the marketing, the sales, and take your conversions through the roof. Will make you a better copywriter, a better graphic designer, a better salesperson, a better sales team. It will improve every aspect of your business and your campaigns and your efforts if you get this right. So, to begin with, keep it super simple. A lot of founders, marketers, generally business leaders who don't have a marketing background, it's easy to overcomplicate this when it's not familiar, when it's not your bread and butter, and you don't have your head in this stuff all day, every day, and haven't done for years. It's easy to go overkill on this and have 10 documents, particularly when you're a really analytical minded kind of person. It's easy to have 10 different spreadsheets and you've got 6 different customer profiles and you've got a super detailed understanding of each of them, which, don't get me wrong, is phenomenal. It's absolutely amazing. And if you have that level of detail and you understand each of your target customer groups, you know what challenges each one faces, what their wants are, what their needs are. So, for example, I've been working with a B2B platform who targets, how to describe it, who targets senior leaders, operational leaders or owners of large commercial property portfolios. So that might be an owner of an investment firm or a private equity business that manages and has assets under management over the value of $1 billion in whatever geographies it is we're targeting. Or that might be a head of operations or a head of property management in large organizations, so banks, financial institutions, service businesses, your typical blue collar businesses with huge commercial property portfolios because they've got teams of 40,000 people based all over the world. So in that case, they came to me and they had a super detailed breakdown based on years of sales activity and constant analysis of exactly who they were targeting. They knew, okay, these are our heads of sustainability, these are our property owners, these are the kind of commercial portfolio managers within big multinationals, and they had a detailed breakdown of, okay, this person's main concern is budget, balancing the books. So for an owner, that's super important for them. For head of sustainability, then they're focused on energy use reduction. They might not have purchasing power. Their behavior is slightly different. They fit here in this particular decision-making process, and they typically they typically use these platforms the most. They typically spend the most time in these sorts of locations online. They typically follow these sorts of people. And when we started working together, they brought to me a huge document with loads and loads of information, which as a marketer is gold dust. But it doesn't have to be that complicated when you start out. To begin with, whenever I start working with any organization, whether they've been doing this for 20 years and you have a team of 5,000 people in your marketing department, or whether you're an engineer and you're building your first business out and you have zero marketing background at all, I will really start just on a very, very basic level, keeping it stupid simple. If you've not heard that, KISS is a live or die phrase. For me, I think that came from an old mentor. And all I really want for a breakdown of your ideal customer to begin with is I want their job role, title. I want the organization size of the organizations they're at. And that'll normally either be by headcount or revenue. I want the industries or sectors. And I want the geographies, so where they're based. So, as an example, let's go with the one I've just given you because it's the one in the top of my head at the moment. So, job role title, we're going to go with property owners. You know what? No, we're going to go with another example. We're going to go with heads of procurement. So, another client I worked with for a few years, we're targeting heads of procurement in medium and enterprise sized businesses with a commodity pricing information platform. So we were going after strictly heads of procurement, and so the senior leadership in procurement in organizations that were turning over at least, in order to justify the use of their platform, they would have to be purchasing huge amounts of commodities on a regular basis. So realistically, I think we said that they'd have to be turning over at least, let's just say 200 million annually to be a relevant customer. They need to be a head of procurement in an organization turning over at least 200 million. Industries and sectors. So for them, the kinds of businesses that are likely to be buying large amounts of commodities on a regular basis, it would be fairly sector agnostic, but they'd probably want to just exclude, I guess, I want to say your blue collar businesses. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to be purchasing desks and computer equipment in the kinds of volumes that we're talking about. And they're generally not purchasing commodities. They'll generally be purchasing for the business itself, whether it's a software license to run the business. Their biggest expense will likely be their payroll. They're not going to be going buying large amounts of lead or coffee or plastic or whatever that commodity might be. So they're typically not going after blue collar industries, but they would certainly go after things like retail, manufacturing, aviation, logistics. Yeah, any industry that is likely to be purchasing those large amounts of commodities. And geographies for them, they were targeting the UK and US. Yeah, which for this side of the for the northern hemisphere, those are the main big English speaking markets with budget for something like this as well, and big enough markets for you to go at and have a decent sized audience to go at. In terms of geographies, how I generally see it, the UK is generally about a tenth of the size of the US. You can generally take the audience size in the UK, multiply it by 10, and that'll be roughly the audience size in the UK. Sorry, in the US. And by and large, they behave relatively similarly. Now, that's not they. There are major differences, and I've worked with lots of companies that have started on one side or the other and wanted to expand into the other. And don't get me wrong, it's very easy to think that they are exactly the same when they're not. But they, for the purposes of setting up marketing campaigns, and if you want to run ads on Google or Facebook or LinkedIn, you can run the exact same campaigns on either of those geographies, and they'll work pretty similarly for both of them. It's not like going from the US to Finland, for example. It's quite easy and transferable. But that's really all I'm looking for. I'd obviously list this out more for this particular example, and they just want to speak to the heads of procurement, senior leadership, heading up procurement departments with serious purchasing power for this example. But in another example, you might want to play around with the seniority here. You might want to include procurement managers. You might want to include heads of operations or finance, heads of ops, finance. List out whatever job roles or titles are relevant for you. Now, your understanding of this and the level of detail of your understanding of this will just be based on how long you've been working in the business for. Basically, on how many campaigns you've run to particular different groups of people, or how many conversations you've had with different decision makers in businesses of varying sizes. Before that point, then this is just intended to be a best first guess as to what you think this is. And it doesn't have to take long. You don't have to do loads of analysis to understand this. For a serious, decent sized business, then you will want to, after this exercise, go through. You will have tons of extremely valuable information and data that can inform this on your marketing side, both the quantitative stuff from your finance or your product team or your customer success team, but also your qualitative stuff from your sales team, which we'll go on to shortly, is gold dust, is absolute gold dust. Because your sales team are having conversations with these target decision makers day in, day out, on LinkedIn, over email. They're running demos with them, and all they're doing, or all they should be doing in those conversations, is pulling out their pain points, what they're struggling with, what their particular challenges are, what happened yesterday, what have you tried previously, what worked, what didn't work. Have you tried these features out? Did it have this feature set? Were you able to do this? Did you get the level of service that you needed? What was their customer support like? Pulling apart what works, what doesn't work for your competitors. Asking them about what they're trying to do, what their goals are, and how close or how far away they are from that, and why, what are the big issues with that. And so that qualitative data from your sales team, basically in their demo calls and the conversations they have with prospects and leads, that is, I would say, the biggest source of gold dust for a B2B business, to get under the skin properly of your ideal customer. And so when I consult with business leaders or heads of revenue or heads of marketing or heads of sales, then I will always recommend them to do at least a weekly demo review, structure it in a way that is supportive, collaborative, and on that demo review, make sure that there is one salesperson, one person from marketing, and one person from product or from operations to work together and talk about that particular conversation. So get one salesperson per week to begin with to break down, or find one example, choose a good example of a recent call. Make sure that you're recording your demo calls on Zoom or with call recording software, and get them in a room, on a Slack channel, on a call, and just get that salesperson to play the recording. And every time someone wants to ask a question, raise a point, highlight something, it might be, those conversations will go in a million different directions, but they are extremely, extremely valuable to keep everyone in the business on the front line of who your customers are and exactly what they want and exactly what they're telling you that they want. And there's no better way for you to get that information than from those sales calls. That is the point of those sales calls, to understand that prospect's problems, who they are, what they want, what they need, what they desire, and then offer them your solution to achieve that. And if those two aren't aligned, then your product's going to suffer massively, and your retention's going to suffer. The entire business is going to suffer if your product or service is not aligned with that. And also all your marketing activity and your sales activity, if every member of the teams that are running those campaigns, doing those calls on a day-to-day basis, don't have a super detailed understanding of who you're targeting, what they want, what they need, the language that they use to talk about it as well is a massively important thing that comes out of those calls. And those calls aren't the only place to get that information. I'll show you a couple of other ways that I'll go in and get that as I'm prepping marketing campaigns. But all of that information just makes the whole business run better. It keeps a really tight relationship between what your client wants and what it is that you're delivering. And it will bring up so many more innovations. It will make your marketing team better copywriters, or make your graphic designers better designers. It'll increase your conversions on your website. Your sales team's conversions will increase because they'll pick apart their technique and look at, okay, could have structured the solution slightly differently, could have handled this objection slightly differently, and it will improve their technique on those calls as well. And it's easy as a salesperson to just smash through 10 calls a day and not take the time to stop and reflect and actually analyze what you're doing in the middle of those conversations. So it's really valuable time for that sales team as well. So I cannot recommend that practice highly enough for any B2B business, is just to set up regular call reviews. Ideally in small teams. You don't want a committee in those calls. You don't want one poor salesperson having their sales technique picked apart by 30 people, senior leaders and all the juniors in the business. You want it to be small, tight teams, but have someone from each element of the business, have them in their kind of functional pods, to work together to understand. And you might want to structure that, add some more structure to that as you see fit. But what we're really looking for to begin to start B2B campaigns is this basic outline of these 4 categories. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. With these categories filled out, so here we're just going to go heads of procurement for 200 million plus businesses. We're going to exclude blue collar industries. So I'm just going to, for my own clarity, I'm going to exclude financial services. I'm just going to exclude media. I'm going to exclude IT and tech. Yes. Let's just go computer software. Your typical blue collar industries we're going to exclude from there. And we're targeting the UK and the US. And like I said, the deeper you understand your audience, the better your marketing and sales will convert. And also, the better your service and your product will be, and the better the numbers will look in your business. It all comes from a deep understanding of your ideal customer, your groups of ideal customers, and making sure that that is shared throughout the business. And so the goal as a marketer, the goal here, and actually one of the biggest compliments I ever get paid as a marketer is, and I've had this on several calls in the past, is when someone comes through your campaigns, they book in a call with the team and they say, I had a previous client came through and said to me, Rob, I don't know how you've done that. I never click on a campaign in Facebook at all. I never click anything. It's spammy. I hate it. I don't like the environment. I've never clicked on anything in Facebook at all. But your ad read my mind. I don't know how you've done that. I don't know what wizardry you're using to do this. I don't know what magic pills you're taking or you're giving me to give me that feeling, but it was weird. I read your copy, your ad jumped out at me. I took a quick look at it. I read through the ad, and by the end of it, I was convinced that this person had read my mind, and so I wanted to come through and speak to you. That, as a marketer, for me, is about the biggest compliment you can give me. And all that is, that wizardry, when you do get an ad, and we've all got them, when you get campaigns, and Facebook is particularly good for this because of the sophistication of its algorithm. When you get a campaign that hits your interest, absolutely spot on, the copy is absolutely dull. They talk about the exact situation that you've been speaking to your partner about 5 minutes ago, and you've only just yourself got clarity on, oh, this is actually the case. This is actually what's going on. You've not even had time to process it in your own head, and an ad pops up that has read your mind and gives you that spooky feeling of, what the hell are they listening to in my conversations? What the hell is going on? How did they know that that is the conversation that I've just had? This is how you do it as a marketer, and it skyrockets your conversion rates. Once you get this right and you get your copy dialed in to a degree that it talks about the exact pain points, needs, desires, struggles, challenges, and potential solutions that your perfect target customer is thinking about and in the process of thinking about. When you get that right and it just clicks, then you get conversions that skyrocket. So your cost per lead will come way down. When your sales team understand that as well, and you've got sales decks and pitch decks that are matched to that, then it will massively increase your conversions at every stage of your marketing and your sales funnel as well. So I can't stress that enough. The deeper you understand exactly who your target customer is, exactly what they're struggling with and the language that they're using to talk about it themselves with, or between colleagues, or between family, between friends, with their mum, whoever it is, the better results you will see across the entire business, not just in marketing and sales, but specifically in marketing and sales. Your conversions will be way, 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 way better. So I'm just going to run you through an example of how I would go about doing this as a marketer to put some copy together.